Ember Morley, a top art director in Manhattan, impresses her editor-in-chief Carol Stone with a bold new magazine cover concept. Later, a co-worker named Laura wishes Ember well on her holiday, noting how hard things have been for Ember since her grandmother's passing. Though a difficult choice, Ember decides to sell the farm, admitting it hasn't felt the same since her grandmother Grace passed away. In Willowtown, Ember arrives at the farmhouse and finds Brandon, the caretaker, clearing snow from the roof with earplugs in. Unable to get his attention, she playfully hurls a snowball at him. Startled, Brandon apologizes for being distracted, but Ember dismisses him for the day. It's certainly a rocky start for the two. Brandon isn't easily deterred and lets himself into the house to ask about Ember's plans for the farm. He's surprised to hear she's selling, explaining that her grandmother, Grace, had entrusted him with looking after the place, assuming Ember would work with him to keep it running. Before heading out to open the farm, he urges her to keep it open at least until Christmas Eve, for the town's sake. Just then, Megan, a friend, walks in, excited to see Ember, and greets her with a warm embrace. Megan informs Ember that everyone, including the mayor, expects her to lead the tree lighting ceremony. When asked about hosting the Christmas Eve farm festival, Ember refuses, admitting she's scared to face the town after deciding to sell the farm. Megan reassures her, encouraging her to follow her heart, as her grandmother would have wanted. Later, Ember catches up with Brandon and apologizes for their rocky start. She's amazed by the beautifully restored tree barn and surprised to learn Brandon did all the work himself. He shares that he's an architect with a passion for woodworking, and Ember reveals she's a graphic designer who loves to draw but struggles to find time for it. That evening, she discovers a box on the table filled with her childhood drawings and a book titled Willow Hill Christmas, which stirs some unexpected feelings. The next day, Ember meets with Jason, a realtor and Carol's nephew, to discuss the house sale. She admits she's reconsidering and hopes to find a buyer who will keep the farm running. Jason agrees to try, but warns that selling quickly might require flexibility. Later, as Jason shows potential buyers around, Brandon interrupts, passionately highlighting the farm's historical significance to Willow Hill. To counter Jason's hints about redevelopment, Brandon even offers to give the buyers a more in-depth tour, clearly taking his role as caretaker very seriously. Meanwhile, Ember visits Megan's antique shop and shows her the Willow Hill Christmas book. She explains how, as a child, she and Grace started the storybook together with beautiful paintings, but never finished it. Megan encourages her to complete the book and read it to the children at the festival, but Ember remains firm in her decision not to host the festival. Just then, a text from Jason alerts her to an issue at the farm, prompting her to leave and check it out. Ember arrives at the farm and talks to Brandon, who's serving hot cocoa to guests. He explains he interfered because Jason had the wrong buyers. They come to an agreement that Brandon will stay out of Jason's way during future showings, and in return, Ember will keep him informed about any upcoming viewings. After all, Willow Hill is his home too, since he lives in the cabin. Later, at the town square, Ember is surprised when Megan introduces her to Brandon's adorable daughter, Emily. The two quickly bond and begin making popcorn garlands together. During the tree lighting ceremony, Mayor Wanda invites Ember on stage and she gives a speech, but the mood shifts when she announces she's selling the farm. Emily then asks about the festival, and though Ember feels it's too late to organize it, Emily suggests the community pitch in to help. Everyone agrees, and they decide to make the last Christmas tree festival at the farm the biggest one ever. Brandon is surprised by the number of volunteers and notices Emily has cheekily signed him and Ember up for decorating. He shares that Emily's mother passed away a few years ago, prompting their move to Willow Hill for a fresh start and a better place for Emily to grow up. Ember is surprised to learn Jack from the bakery is Brandon's uncle. Later at home, Ember quietly begins working on the storybook. It seems Willow Hill is starting to work its magic on her. The next day, Ember gets a call from Carol about a clothing line cover she needs to work on, forcing her to put aside plans to finish the storybook. Meanwhile, at Jack's bakery, Jack playfully suggests that Ember and Brandon are soulmates since she ordered peppermint mocha and ginger snaps, Brandon's favorites. Brandon, however, insists that if it's meant to be, things will happen naturally. At Brandon's cabin, Ember stops by to start decorating, but Emily quickly takes over, eagerly showing Ember her room. While decorating, Ember shares that she studied illustration, but switched to graphic design for better job prospects after Emily spots her sketchbook. The trio enjoys their creative time together before Emily's bedtime. Later, after putting Emily to bed, Brandon thanks Ember for coming and admits he enjoyed her company, leaving her with a wide smile. Something is definitely brewing between the two. The next day, Emily asks Brandon where they'll live once the farm is sold, and he reassures her that home is wherever they're together. no matter where they go. Later, Ember sees Brandon and Emily playing in the yard and joins them. Clever as ever, Emily gets Ember involved in making Christmas wreaths to raise money for the community toy drive. They have a great time crafting wreaths until Megan arrives to take Emily to her pageant rehearsals. Back at the house, Ember shares fond memories of Grace with Brandon while looking over her drawings. When Brandon sees her storybook, he praises her talent, and Ember admits that her recent promotion leaves her little time for what she loves. Brandon shares his vow to always make time for his passions and encourages her to finish the storybook. Later, Ember gets a call from Laura about redoing the magazine cover because Carol isn't happy with it. Ember decides to pass the task to Laura, offering to give her full credit if Carol approves the new design. Ember stops by the bakery to drop off posters for the festival and is surprised to find Brandon there. When he hears she's heading to Emily's dress rehearsal, he's relieved, knowing Ember is the perfect person to help Emily with her nerves. After she leaves, Brandon confides in Jack about his hopes of buying the farm, though he admits it would take a Christmas miracle to make it happen. At the rehearsal, Ember encourages Emily by comparing acting to painting, explaining that mistakes can be turned into something better. As they rehearse and play together, Brandon arrives and watches from a distance, smiling at the heartwarming scene. At a meeting with Jason at the bakery, Ember learns a developer is interested in the farm, far from her ideal buyer, as she hopes to keep it running, but also needs a quick sale. Later, Brandon calls and asks her to the pageant, and she happily agrees. When Brandon picks her up, he convinces her to wear a matching Christmas sweater, claiming it's tradition for the event. However, at the pageant, Ember realizes they're the only ones in matching sweaters. 1 point for Brandon for pulling off the trick. The pageant is a success, with Emily nailing her role perfectly. Craig, Megan's husband, notices Ember and Brandon's matching sweaters, and Brandon jokingly claims it's a new tradition. Megan shares that the principal loved the play and plans to revive the after-school theater program, with Emily excited to join the next play in January. Later, Brandon tells Ember about Jack's attempts to set him up, but he believes love should happen naturally. Ember agrees, admitting she's been waiting for the same but feels her demanding job at the magazine makes it unlikely. Brandon suggests she take a break from work sometimes to find balance. Ember mentions how nice it was to see Emily shine during the performance, and Brandon admits sharing the moment with her made it even more special. There's definitely some romantic tension between them. The next day at the bakery, Laura shares her cover design with Ember over a video call, and Ember is blown away by her talent. As Brandon walks by, Ember waves, prompting Laura to tease her about her feelings for him. Ember admits it's complicated since she doesn't want to hurt Brandon and Emily when she returns to Manhattan. Laura advises her to stop overthinking and take a chance if she truly likes Brandon. The next day, Ember informs Brandon he'll be dressing as Santa for the festival, though a little cutie might have had a hand in that. Later, Brandon takes Ember to the skating rink to unwind. While skating, Ember realizes Willowtown has made her value family over work, and watching Brandon and Emily has made her feel like part of a family, leading her to question her decisions. Brandon advises her to take time to figure out what she really wants. As they skate, Ember accidentally slides into his arms, and they have an electric moment staring into each other's eyes, before she breaks it off. Back home, she starts working on the storybook, feeling a new sense of clarity. The next morning, Ember receives a video call from Carol, who praises the new cover for the clothing line. Ember credits Laura, which surprises Carol, and she offers Ember a contract to work at a new branch opening in London after her holiday. Meanwhile, Emily and Megan are shopping for gifts with Brandon when he receives a call from the loan office. They can't approve his loan without a larger down payment, putting a serious setback in his plans to buy the farm. At the farm, as festival preparations continue, Jason introduces Ember to Aaron and his wife, Alexa. The developer's interested in the property. They love the farm and believe it's perfect for their plans. Jason suggests drawing up a contract, but Ember, unsure about selling, informs them she's focused on the festival happening the next day. Alexa suggests they return for the festival and bring their family to experience the event. At the bakery, Brandon shares his disappointment about the loan, worried about how Emily will feel if they have to move. Jack reassures him that he's been a good father, but it seems Brandon doesn't fully agree with the expression on his face. Jack offers his savings, insisting Brandon accept it, but Brandon hesitates. Eventually, Jack gives it to him as a loan, and Brandon gratefully accepts. Just then, he receives a text from Ember asking to speak with him. He thanks Jack and heads out excitedly to share the good news with Ember. At the farm, Brandon excitedly tells Ember that he's secured the down payment for the loan and expresses his interest in buying the farm. However, his joy quickly fades when Ember reveals she has already sold the farm. Brandon is confused about how she made the decision without telling him, and Ember admits it was an impromptu choice she couldn't turn down, as she has to return to Manhattan soon. Disappointed, Brandon congratulates her on getting her wish to leave it all behind and walks away, feeling dejected. The next morning, Ember confides in Megan, admitting she had no idea Brandon wanted to buy the farm, and feels that if he had told her sooner, they could have made it work. She feels terrible, thinking she's taken away Brandon and Emily's dream of the tree farm. Megan comforts her, reminding her that when one door closes, another opens, just like in Ember's storybook, where the little girl learns that Christmas isn't about a fancy tree, but about who you spend the time with. Back at the cabin, Brandon apologizes to Emily about the situation with the farm, but she's not upset. Despite having to leave the farm, Emily is grateful for the new friendship they've made and hopes they can visit Ember in the future. Brandon agrees, feeling the same. Emily's such a wise little girl. During the festival, Megan encourages Ember to enjoy the event and stop worrying, reminding her that Grace wouldn't want her to stress. The story time is a success, filling everyone with joy, and they all applaud the wonderful tale. Later, Emily delivers a heartfelt speech about finding family and a sense of belonging in the town. She expresses that, no matter what the future holds, she's grateful for the community and how Morley Farm is more than just land, it's a place where they all come together. Her words move everyone, including Aaron and Alexa. Touched by her speech, Aaron and Alexa decide to back out of the contract, realizing they can't subdivide the farm, as it's the heart of the community. Alexa gives Ember a card for her publishing company, expressing interest in Ember's art and story. She invites Ember to work with the company, and Ember is thrilled by the offer. Ember rushes to tell Brandon the good news, but before she can speak, Brandon apologizes for getting upset. He admits he didn't tell her about his interest in the farm because securing the money was nearly impossible, and he didn't want to disappoint her. Emily also apologizes for selling the farm without consulting him first, and Brandon shares that he'll really miss her when she leaves for Manhattan. However, Ember reveals she's quit her job. Spending time with him and Emily has made her realize what she's been missing, and she tells him the farm is his if he wants it. They share a heartfelt kiss, realizing they are exactly what each other has been missing all along. It seems their Christmas miracle is finally coming true.